ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we saw about Bhagwan Shiva appearing in the form of infinite column of light, and that's why it is Jyotirlinga. So Jyoti is light representing infinity, consciousness. Linga is the symbol. So Jyotirlinga is consciousness, the indicator of consciousness. The word Jyotirlinga means the indicator of consciousness. And as consciousness, it is not having any boundaries, no space, time, object boundaries. It is not limited by form. It does not have any specific attributes. And hence it represents the Nirgun, Nirakar Tattva. But our mind cannot conceptualize what is infinity. So the grossified form of that is the Linga. So though Linga is finite, it indicates infinite, which happens with all the supports. So we should not have difficulty in that sense, because the flag is small, depends on the size of the flag, the cloth or the paper, whatever it is made from. But it indicates a country which is vast. Same way, Linga may be small, Linga may be whatever size the Linga may be, but we are not worshipping that stone or the metal from which the Linga is made. We are indeed worshipping that supreme consciousness. So Shivalinga is Chinmaya, that we have to remember. And it was said yesterday, there was it is Bhagwan Shiva is worshipped in both, as the Linga also and as the image also. Now, why did Bhagwan Vishnu and Brahmaji have this fight with themselves? So we go back to Vedanta, we understand, and Shiva Puran also mentions that they forgot the glory of Ishvara, and they forgot the true nature of the self. Again, I'm saying, please remember, this is a Leela to convey a certain point. So they had forgotten the supreme creator. They forgot the nature of the supreme creator. So Bhagwan manifests as a column of light, as consciousness, and consciousness is infinite in the sense none of the forms are supreme. All forms are expressions of that same divine consciousness. One. Two, that same consciousness only appears as the Ishvara and becomes the creator, sustainer, destroyer. So Brahmaji and Vishnu Bhagwan, they tell Shivji again Vidyeshwar Samhita in Shiv Puran, 10th chapter, that please tell us about the Panchakrityas, because Ishvara is able to do all the five, and Ishvara appoints others to do any one of them, or even some duties within each one of them, like creation. Then there may be many devatas in charge of creation also. Sustenance, some devatas will do sustenance, some will do destruction, like that. And Ishvara is the one who does all. So they request him, please tell us your five Panchakrityas, the five motives. So here he says, Srishti Sthitishcha Samhara Tiro Bhavopyanugraha Panchaiva me Jagatkrityam Nitya Siddham Ajachyutau. So what are the five? Srishti, creation; Sthiti, preservation; Samhara, destruction; Tirobhava, concealment; Anugraha, grace. So he goes on to explain each of them, that Sarga is creation, it is appearance of the consciousness only. Then consciousness is the substratum of that creation also. The changeless consciousness is the substratum for the changing creation. And into consciousness again they merge. Tirobhava is when the Maya is veiling and the truth is covered. Anugraha is where the Maya is lifted and the person gets mukti. Tanmokshonugrahasthanme krityameva hi panchakam. So this is the fifth one. So he says these five are attributed to me, and these five, in these five, the most important is the fifth one that we had seen earlier also. Anugraha is the most important one. All the four happen by this fifth one. So very interesting, he says now that these five are connected to five elements. Meaning the Panchakrityas of Bhagavan we can experience through the whole creation in the five elements itself. Tadidam Panchabhuteshu Drishyate Mamakairjanaihi Srishtirbhumau Sthitirtoye Samhara Pavake Tatha. So he says that creation is in the earth, preservation is in the water, destruction is in fire. Tirobhavo nile tadvat anugrah iha ambare. Concealment is in wind, and anugraha, grace, is in the sky. This should be known by the people who are wise. Why? How are these five connected like that? Because Srishti we see come, even food is the basic source for every human being or any being to be born also. So Srishti is symbolized by earth. Then preservation is symbolized by water. Sustenance. Today we know very well our body is made up of 70% of water, dehydration, and so many challenges come. Water is most important. So preservation happens through water. Then destruction happens through fire. That evident. Things get burnt with fire. Ardyate tejasa sarvam vayuna cha apaniyate. With wind, there is a concealment. So wind, we know, purifies the place also. When some place is, closed for a long time, becomes stuffy, etc. So one aspect of wind is it is a purifier. In the symbolic aspect, the wind is that which conceals. In the sense, the mind is connected to the wind. You see, the mind, which is, when we say Bhagwan, Hanumanji is Amsha of Shivji, and Hanumanji is the master of the mind. The mind is like a monkey. Wind continuously keeps moving. So our mind also keeps on moving in the world. And when it is extroverted, it is as though away from the self, concealed. Self is concealed. So in that way, it is Vayuna cha apaniyate and Vyomna anugrahyate sarvam. And sky indicates grace. The sky is, everything is in the sky. Without this sky, the four things will not be there. They can't stay. Avakashatvat akasha. So even if we look at five elements, we can remember Bhagavan Shiva. That is such a nice sadhana to do. So in our quiet moments when we are remembering Bhagavan through the linga or through the form, chanting the mantra, that is one way to remember. Outside when we do the work, we remember all actions are dedicated to Bhagavan. And if we are just sitting, watching the sunrise, watching the ocean, even feeling the breeze, every single moment, it can remind us of Bhagavan. These are Panchakrityas of Bhagavan. Now, having explained this, he says that these five, all the five are Panchakrityas Bhagavan can do. Brahmaji can do one, Vishnu Bhagavan can do one. So he says that you have earned the two Krityas by performing tapas, and which are Srishti Sthitya Vidham Bhagyam Matta Prita Dati Priyam Prita Dati Priyam. So he says that by tapasya you are able to create and you are able to sustain. He said, I entrusted two jobs to Rudra and Mahesha. What is that? The destruction and concealment. But Anugraha, he says, I alone can do, nobody else can do. So each aspect of the Krityas he has given to one. And fifth one is the Anugraha. He can do all the four and all the other four are able to do by his grace. So he says, you have forgotten that aspect. That had you remained conscious about me, this situation would not have risen. Madhyanavirahat vatsau maudhyam vamevamagatam madhyane sati maivam syat manam rupam maheshavat. If you had remembered me, you have forgotten me and my true nature. And because of that, you had this fight. Again, coming to Vedanta, we understand that when we forget Bhagavan or infinite consciousness as our true self, then we identify with the body, then we feel I am Jiva, and then there are various attachments and we want power and we want to show who is greater than the other. So he says that is the cause. Ignorance of the self, that is the root cause. Whoever meditates on Bhagavan becomes one with Bhagavan, realizes infinite consciousness. So now he gives a special upadesh to both of them. What does he say? Tasmat madjnana siddhyartham mantram omkaranamakam itah param prajapatam mamakam manabhanjanam. He says from now you chant the sacred mantra Om. Do the japa of Om and that will surely destroy your ignorance and the arrogance also born out of that about who is greater. So he says about Omkar. Says do the Omkar japa. And Omkar is the indicator of that same consciousness, which is Bhagavan Shiva. So the sound is Om, but the indicator is Bhagavan. Just like the Linga is the indicator of consciousness, the form of Linga indicates consciousness. Same way the sound of Om indicates consciousness. वाचकोऽहम हम वाच्यो मंत्रोऽहम हिमदात्मकः मदनुस्मरणं नित्यं मामनुस्मरणं भवेत्. So Vachaka Vachya Bhava it is called. Om is the Vachak, consciousness is the Vachya, indicated through that Omkar. And he says that to recite it every day is to recite Bhagwan Shiva's name. And then he elaborates how Omkar manifests from one face of Bhagwan. So, if we actually see, Shivji has 5 faces. Earlier, we have seen that these Panchakrityas are there, and we also saw Namah Shivaya, how Namah Shivaya comes from one face of Bhagwan. Each alphabet comes from one face of Bhagwan. Today, we go to understand that a little deeper. So, this is called the Panchamukhi Roop of Bhagwan Shiva with 5 faces. So, he says with the अकार उत्तरात् पूर्वम उकार पश्चिमानत आननात् मकारो दक्षिण मुखाद विदु प्रांग मुखतस्तथा. So akara comes from the face towards the north, from the face towards the west ukara comes, from the face towards south makara comes, and from the mouth which is towards the east the bindu comes. नादो मध्यमुखादेवं पंचधासौ विजृंभतिः विजृंभितः एकीभूत पुनस्तद्वत् ओमित्येकाक्षरो भवत्. The nada, the sound, or the specific, the crescent that we make. So, a, u, ma, they form the three, then the bindu, and then the crescent. The curvature and the crescent. So he says this, that the nada emerges from the mouth in the center. Thus, Omkar appeared in 5 ways. With the coming of all the sounds from the 5 mouths, there emerged Omkara. And from this, a, u, ma, bindu, and nada come Namah Shivaya. So that is how from 5 faces, Omkar also comes by itself, and then Namah Shivaya also comes from there. And he says this Omkar is a combination of Shiva and Shakti. This Omkar, because of its form having been related to the name and the Veda, symbolizes Shiva and Shakti. So Omkara is that Nada Brahman. And from this Omkar, the Panchakshari mantra also has come out. So Nakara emerged from Akara, Makara came from Ukara, Shikara came from Makara, Vakara was produced from the Bindu, and Yakara came from the Nada. So this is how he says Omkar has come. He says you do the japa of Omkar. And very interesting after that he says is that when you worship the Linga, you should chant the mantra Om. So Brahmaji is very grateful, and he says that you are Pranavacharya, you are the one who gave the Upadesha of Omkar, so you are Pranavacharya, and you are Pranava Linga also, you are the one indicated by that Pranava. So the Linga also indicates Pranava, consciousness, the sound also indicates consciousness, and now both these come together. So worshipping of the Linga with Omkar is considered very auspicious. And so he says here that you are the form of the Pancha Brahma. So these 5 faces of Bhagwan Shiva, they are called Pancha Brahma. And if you know, in the Jagdishwara Mandir also in Pavai, when we worship Bhagwan, we worship this form, Pancha Mukha Brahma. Because the Vedic mantras, when we say Aghore Ebhyo Taghore Ebhyo Ghora Ghora Tarebhya Sarve Ebhya Sarva Sharve Ebhya, like those mantras which are there, Nidhana Pataye Namaha, etc., they worship each face of Bhagwan Shiva. So he says, so these are Pancha Brahma, and these are the source of Panchakritya, the source of Omkar, the source of the 5 Panchakshari mantra, and from there comes all the other crores of mantras of the Vedas. That is said here. All the Vedas emerge from the same, besides of crores of mantras, and one meets success with the mantra Om as well as with the Panchakshara. One achieves all types of success. So that is how the source is Shivji. From there comes Om. From there comes 5 Panchakshara. From there comes many other mantras, including Gayatri. And that's why Om is the subtlest mantra. And he says, you are Atman, you are Brahman, you have virtues beyond measure, possess enormous power. So salutations unto you, O Lord Shiva. Then Shivji says, for your sake, I have spoken to you about all this. Now he says, you worship the Linga. So one is to do Omkar, chanting Japa, and second is worship the Linga. So he says that worship of the Linga is like my worship. And those who want to attain mukti, they want ultimate liberation, what they should do, they should worship the Linga with chanting of Omkar. So it's not that we can't chant any other mantra. We can. But this is one specific thing that Bhagavan told to Vishnu Bhagavan and Brahmaji. That you worship the Linga with Omkar. And that understand that Omkar is consciousness, Linga also is consciousness. So he says, for the worshippers, the worship of Linga is better than worship of the Murti. Particularly the persons desirous of achieving moksha should worship the Linga. And Lingam Omkara Matrena, Lingam Omkara Mantrena, Veram Panchaksharena tu. So worship the Linga with Omkar and worship the form with Panchakshara. Swayameva hi sadravyaihi pratisthapyam parairapi. So either you establish a Linga or you make a priest establish a Linga and then you worship that Linga and chant Omkar. And having said this, Bhagavan says that those who worship me in this way, they will become one with me. And having said this, Bhagavan disappears. So, Omkar, today we will do this sadhana of remembering Bhagavan through the Linga and the mantra Om. And remember, all the mantras indicate only one consciousness. So whether it is Namah Shivaya or Arunachala Shiva or the Mrityunjay mantra or Omkar, all of them indicate Shiva Tattva, which is consciousness alone. I'm reading all these shlokas, etc., because we have got completely alienated from our own scriptures. It's high time we go back to our scriptures and read what is written in that and understand the deeper significances. There are some more points associated with the Linga that we will take up tomorrow. And there are some doubts and confusions that are there in minds of people. And very clearly Shiva Puran explains many things. So that we will take up tomorrow. Today we will do Linga Upasana with the Omkar mantra.